In order to solve the problems that we face when it comes to our climate and biodiversity emergency, we need a portfolio of methods, of technologies, of means, if you like. And one of those, very clearly, is rewilding. Wildcard are running an initiative at the moment to ask the Royals to rewild as much of their estates as they possibly could. And on that account, we ran a petition in conjunction with 38 Degrees, and more than 100,000 people signed up to the fact that they thought that that ought to be happening. In fact, the vast majority of people here in the UK, a recent poll also showed, would welcome that activity. So let's just think about, the lands that the royal households have interest in, because they come into 4 different categories. So firstly, there's the Crown Estate. Now, the Crown Estate occupies 615,000 acres of land and foreshore. The Queen officially owns this, but the portfolio is accountable to Parliament and to us, the public, too. About 264,000 acres are agricultural land and uplands. 15% of the profits go to the Queen. Its most notable assets are things like Windsor Castle, Regent Street. It's not all rural, there are urban parts of the estate as well. And in fact, Buckingham Palace is essentially owned by the Crown Estate too. So that's the Crown Estate. Then there are a couple of duchies. The Duchy of Lancaster, it's an ancient feudal area, dates back to the 13th century. Last year paid the Queen about £23 million of income, and most of it is in the north of England. Then we've got the Duchy of Cornwall. 130,000 acres. It's an estate that's owned, as you all know, by the Prince of Wales, which includes most of Dartmoor, which frankly, if it could be rewilded, imagine that as, woodland, rainforest, fantastic. Last year it paid Charles around £22 million in income. And then lastly, there are the private land holdings and estates owned by the Royals as individuals. Balmoral, obviously, Sandringham, so on and so forth. So there are 4 packets of land which add up to a significant area, we know, twice the size of Greater London, which we could be looking at in terms of rewilding. Now, essentially rewilding is allowing the landscape to maximise its, its biological potential. Now, in some places that might be ancient woodland, and it might be extremely rich in terms of the abundance of species that can live there. But sometimes it might be my garden or yours, or a rooftop around here. And I think that we have to keep our minds open on all of those levels. And we have to start at the bottom. If we're going to start rewilding, that starts with the soil, which in many parts of the UK is very, very badly damaged. So it's not a single entity. Within itself, rewilding is a portfolio of means of addressing a very urgent crisis that we face. So we are keen to implement that type of technology as rapidly as possible, and we have the capacity to do that. It's been tried, it's been tested, we've learned our trade, if you like, but what we need to do is make sure that it's done a lot more broadly and a lot more rapidly. And that's why we're running the Wildcard campaign, asking the royal family, significant landowners in the UK, to rewild as much of their land as possible. And if they were to take the lead, it would be fantastic, because we think that many others would then follow.